going to be much more nervous. And we did a bit of recording beforehand as well, early this year.
In 1977, Christine McVie lined up 30 sleeping pills in a Beverly Hills hotel. She was ready to end it all. Then someone knocked on her door. That moment saved her, but the pain never stopped. From a mother who held séances to a marriage that destroyed her, Christine's story was heartbreak. She dated a beach boy who drowned. She fought a custody battle that cost $200,000. And in her final years, she became a prisoner in her own home. This is the tragedy Hollywood forgot. Christine Ann Perfect was born on July 12, 1943, in a quiet little village called Booth in Lancashire. Her father Cyril was a concert violinist who played with the Birmingham Symphony Orchestra, and her mother Beatrice was not just a homemaker, she was a psychic medium who held séances in their house. She even painted her spirit guide during trances and called it Silver Shadow. Christine's grandfather played the organ at Westminster Abbey, so music wasn't just around her, it ran through her whole family. When she was still young, they moved from that peaceful countryside to Bearwood, near Birmingham. It was a big change. The city was full of noise and smoke, especially in post-war Britain where everything still felt broken and tired. But inside their home, strange and beautiful things were happening. Music and mysticism lived side by side. Christine started playing piano when she was 4. Her parents had big hopes for her because of the family's background, so she studied classical music seriously. She learned Bach and other complicated pieces all the way until she turned 11. But she wasn't excited by any of it. It felt like a burden. Teachers kept telling her she had to be perfect because of her last name, and that pressure made her feel trapped. Everything changed in the late 1950s when her brother John brought home a Fats Domino songbook. That boogie-woogie rhythm shook something loose inside her. Suddenly, the strict world of classical piano felt cold and far away. At 16, she stopped playing Schubert and started writing her own songs. In 1958, she was 15 and already soaking in rock and roll from the radio. Fats Domino, who had already sold over 65 million records by then, became her hero. At 16, she joined her first band called The Electric End and played Everly Brothers songs at local youth clubs. Her parents didn't like it at all. Her father, the proud violinist, thought she was wasting her talent. But she didn't care. At art school, she joined another band called the Bobcats. Their first show was at a community center, and they brought the piano in a hot dog van. Christine said it smelled like onions and stuck to her fingers when she played it. She also started performing with Spencer Davis, who would later become famous. They played in smoky pubs and small clubs around Birmingham. These nights, filled with raw music and rebellion, slowly pulled her away from everything her parents had planned for her. She spent 5 years studying sculpture at Moseley College of Art. She earned her teaching degree, but her mind was never really in the classroom. Her heart was in the blues clubs where she met Stan Webb, Andy Sylvester, and Chris Wood. They invited her into their band, Sounds of Blue. But she had no money to pursue art professionally after graduation, so she moved to London and took a job dressing windows at a department store on Regent Street. It didn't last long. Stan and Andy were starting a new band called Chicken Shack and needed a pianist. She dropped everything and wrote to them. They said yes, and just like that, she left her job and stepped into professional music full-time. At 18, she dyed her brown hair platinum blonde. Her parents were shocked. She started dressing differently, staying out all night, chasing live music in dark corners of the city. Her first real heartbreak came during this time. A boy who introduced her to London's underground music world broke her heart. Her mother claimed she had seen it all in a psychic vision. but Christine laughed it off. Still, the changes kept coming. She moved further and further from her family's polished dreams and closer to something wild, loud, and real. She met Stan Webb again in 1967 when Chicken Shack was ready to record. Her first single with them was "It's Okay With Me Baby," a song she wrote herself. But behind the scenes, things weren't so smooth. She found out Stan was cheating on her, and that pain sank into her songwriting. She stayed long enough to sing "I'd Rather Go Blind," which became a huge hit, reaching number 14 on the UK charts. People praised her voice for being emotional but never overdone. Still, she made almost no money from it. Managers were living in fancy houses, while the band struggled, sharing tight spaces on tour. Christine felt the unfairness growing heavier with every show. She had already married John McVie, the bassist from Fleetwood Mac, on August 3, 1968. They didn't have a honeymoon. They stayed in a hotel with Joe Cocker and went right back on tour. Their bands were signed to the same label, Blue Horizon, and they often played the same venues. The two of them shared a flat with friends and fellow musicians, but it was clear they couldn't build a marriage from separate hotel rooms. She wanted stability. She wanted to be with him, not just on the phone between cities. In 1969, she left Chicken Shack at the height of her fame. She had just been named the best female vocalist in Melody Maker 2 years in a row, and even got voted as having one of the top 10 pairs of legs in Britain. But she was tired of the chaos. The label asked her to record one solo album before she left. She agreed and released Christine Perfect. It didn't bring her fortune, but it quietly paved the way for what was next. She later said that she knew she had to leave before she broke down. She was 26 and already worn thin by the endless traveling, unfair contracts, and constant pushing. In 1970, she was back in the studio. Fleetwood Mac had started recording Kiln House, and Christine, still not an official member, was there playing keyboard, singing backup, and even drawing the strange little house that became the album cover. One of her own songs, "Tell Me All the Things You Do," made it onto the record, but it wasn't a calm time. Peter Green had just walked away from the band that May. He'd gone through a terrifying LSD experience at a party in Munich, and after that, he was never the same. Christine had seen him change from someone full of jokes to someone who wore long robes, carried a cross, and talked about giving all his money away. He was the soul of the band, and now he was gone. Just 10 days before their US tour in August 1970, Fleetwood Mac asked Christine to join for real. She didn't believe it at first. She told them, "Are you serious? I'm just a girl who plays piano." But on August 8th, she walked on stage as an official member. She sang on future games that same year, helping the band find a new sound after losing Green. Some audiences didn't even know she was part of the band. They thought she was just backup. But Christine's soft voice and calm energy began to shape what Fleetwood Mac would slowly become. She had taken John McVie's last name on stage, but at home, things were far from peaceful. By 1973, she knew about John's drinking, his mood swings, and the rumors of him cheating. On stage, they looked like a couple in sync. Off stage, she wrote songs like "Morning Rain" in hotel rooms while listening to John scream at her. Sometimes he threw things. One night, he picked up a knife. On flights, she'd sit far from him. And during one long flight, John started flirting with a model named Sandra Elsden. That turned into something more. Christine tried to hold things together, but the only person she could lean on was the other woman in the band. They didn't have anyone else. She also saw things no one talked about. Peter Green's breakdowns didn't end quietly. During a 1970 Fillmore show, He melted down on stage, and Christine had to help him off. The LSD party in Munich had changed him. He said he played the best guitar of his life in that basement, but came out crying. After that, he started writing about demons and dreams. One song, The Green Manalishi, came from a nightmare where a hellhound chased him, showing how money could destroy a soul. Christine stood by, watching all of it, trying to help, but knowing no one could bring him back. In 1971, Christine started working on future games again. This time, she stepped up in a new way. She spent $15,000 of her own money on a Moog synthesizer and taught herself how to use it, staying up late alone in the studio. Meanwhile, Danny Kerwin was falling apart. He was drinking a bottle of whiskey before lunch and passing out during takes. Once, she asked him to slow down the tempo of a song. He answered by smashing 3 guitars worth $2,000 each. During a European tour stop in Munich, he threw his amp at John McVie. Christine started recording her vocals at 3 a.m., just to stay safe. In 1972, while working on Bear Trees, her cover of Spare Me a Little of Your Love became a hit, landing at number 83 on Billboard. But Bob Welch made things worse. He wanted top billing and demanded $500 every day as a creative fee. Christine secretly booked late-night studio sessions at Advision Studios, spending $12,000 of her savings to record without him. When Welch found out, he lost control and smashed the mixing board with a cricket bat, causing $8,000 in damage. She had to climb through a back window just to save the tapes. The album still sold 200,000 copies in 6 months. But the stress made her drop 15 pounds. Her insomnia got so bad, it stayed with her for years. By 1973, things hit a personal low. While recording Why in LA, Christine got a call from the hotel manager. Her husband, John, was with a 19-year-old groupie named Jenny Boyd. Christine later found explicit Polaroids in his guitar case. Still, she kept recording. You can hear it in her voice. Those vocals weren't just emotional, they were real. She started seeing a therapist named Dr. Harold Bloomfield, paying $75 a session, which would be around $500 now. No one in the band knew. She kept playing 47 shows that year, and during one concert in Chicago, she fainted on stage. She came back 10 minutes later and finished the set. In her 1998 book, she admitted she had thought about ending her life 3 times during that year. Kerwin's final collapse came on August 15, 1973, during soundcheck at the Rainbow Theatre in London. Drunk on 2 bottles of gin, he attacked the sound engineer with a microphone stand. The man needed 12 stitches. It cost the band $5,000. Christine took over everything: keyboards, piano, vocals, for 156 shows. She pushed her voice so hard she had to get steroid shots every 3 weeks. Her vocal range dropped from 3 octaves to 2. At times, she lost her voice completely and had to cancel shows. On tour, she carried her own 85-pound piano because there weren't enough roadies. Then came 1974. During the recording of Heroes Are Hard to Find, everything exploded. On March 12th at the Hyatt House in West Hollywood, Bob Welch accused Christine of stealing songwriting credits. A fight broke out. Guitars got smashed. A Hammond organ was destroyed. The total damage hit $3,500. Neighbors heard screaming and breaking glass. The police were called. Christine was left with a bruised rib. She sat in the hotel, writing a resignation letter. She almost quit. But their manager reminded her they had already spent the $500,000 tour advance. If she left, she'd face lawsuits and debt. In December 1974, everything was falling apart for Fleetwood Mac. Bob Welch had just quit, marking the 9th time someone left the band in only 8 years. Mick Fleetwood was desperate. He needed someone new fast. He ended up at Sound City Studios, where producer Keith Olsen played him a track called Frozen Love. The guitar solo stood out. It wasn't just good, it was haunting. It came from an old 1973 album by a little-known duo called Buckingham Nicks. Mick got curious and asked about the guitarist. That's when he heard the name Lindsey Buckingham. But Lindsey wouldn't come alone. He had a condition. If he joined, his partner Stevie Nicks had to join too. Christine McVie wasn't so sure. She didn't want another woman in the band, not without meeting her first. So on New Year's Eve, 1974, the three of them sat down at El Carmen, a small Mexican restaurant. Stevie showed up in her waitress dress straight from her shift at Clementine's, where she was cleaning tables for just $1.50 an hour because their record label had dropped them. That dinner changed everything. Christine gave her approval, and by February 1975, Stevie and Lindsey were officially part of Fleetwood Mac. Only 3 months later, they started recording a new album. It came out in July 1975 and sold over 7 million copies. But success didn't mean peace. In early 1976, they went into the record plant studio in Sausalito to begin the next album. It was supposed to take a few weeks. It turned into 8 months of non-stop recording, fights, and drug use. The original plan was to release it in September, but nothing was going as planned. Christine McVie nearly quit after Lindsey forced her to re-record her parts over and over. Her song, Over My Head, took weeks. She suffered a bad asthma attack from all the smoke in the studio and had to step outside for oxygen during sessions. But she still came in one night alone and recorded Songbird in a single take. That song became her most emotional work, written right in the middle of her divorce from John McVie. Things were getting worse. The master tapes got damaged from being played too many times. They had to bring in a specialist with strange equipment who sat there for days trying to save the recordings by matching the broken parts to backup copies using just headphones. The band had to cancel a full tour in fall 1976 just to finish the album. That cost them around $2 million. While all this was happening, Christine was hiding something big. Her marriage to John was falling apart, and during the 1975 tour, she started secretly seeing the band's lighting director, Curry Grant. She even wrote, "You make loving fun" about him, but told everyone it was about her dog to avoid drama. John found out anyway. He told Mick Fleetwood, who confronted Curry. Curry was eventually fired. Stevie Nicks found out and questioned Christine in 1977. That nearly broke the band completely. And there was more. Christine later got involved with a roadie named Curtis Cupid. She admitted those relationships made her feel ashamed, like she was losing herself. John started acting strange. He would walk around hotel hallways in the middle of the night, yelling her name, while she stayed locked in her room. At the same time, Christine found herself stuck between Stevie and Lindsey's endless fights. They had broken up as a couple, and now they wouldn't talk unless Christine passed the messages. They'd sit in different hotel rooms and only speak to her. In the studio, it was worse. Lindsey's obsession with control clashed with Stevie's emotional, mystical way of creating music. Christine became the go-between, even as she was falling apart herself. Then it got even more complicated. Mick Fleetwood, the drummer, told Stevie he loved her. They started their own affair, hidden under layers of drugs and stress. Through all of this, Christine and Stevie became close friends. In a band full of men, they were the only support each other had. Despite the chaos, the album got done. It was called Rumours. It came out on February 4th, 1977, and sold over 45 million copies. But the price was high. They had used up about $25,000 worth of cocaine during those sessions. Christine had developed a dependency and needed help. She had locked herself in a bathroom one night after finding out John had brought other women into their house. Mick later described that house as a place with dark rooms and thick carpets where everything was hidden. Even so, Christine wrote, "Don't stop," about John, trying to stay hopeful. But he later admitted he didn't even know the song was about him. When the album was finally finished, Christine listened to the whole thing start to end and cried. She knew they had created something powerful out of their pain. By the time Rumours hit #1, Christine had co-written 4 of its tracks. Don't Stop became a top 3 hit in the US, but the drug use was getting out of control. The cocaine budget alone had crossed $100,000, which would be over $400,000 today. Christine had a breakdown in New York, locking herself in a hotel bathroom for 6 hours because she thought the walls were closing in. Their road manager, JC, used to hand out cocaine in beer bottle caps before shows. Christine and Stevie wore little bottles around their necks, filled with cocaine and topped with diamond-studded spoons. During the world tour that followed, which made $20 million over 112 shows, Christine found a hotel key in John's pocket. It belonged to a 19-year-old girl. Right then, in the middle of the Atlanta concert on July 15, 1977, Christine filed for divorce. She signed the papers during the show's intermission and then went right back on stage to sing "Go Your Own Way." She was crying as she sang. Their divorce was final in December 1977. John had to pay her $2.3 million and give up half of their estate in the English countryside. Christine returned to Cary Grant again, the man she had written her love song for, but the wounds were still open. Then came the Grammy Awards in February 1978. Fleetwood Mac won Album of the Year. Christine stood there and gave a speech thanking the chaos that created magic. But behind the smile, she was breaking. In March, she checked into a London clinic for 3 weeks. She wrote songs on napkins and matchbooks, but never released most of them. One was called Empty Rooms, with lyrics saying she felt like she was dying inside while the world cheered outside. She later admitted she thought about ending her life. Twice. Once, she had lined up 30 sleeping pills in a Beverly Hills hotel before Mick Fleetwood knocked on her door, not knowing he had just saved her. She kept her Grammy boxed up for 2 years because it reminded her of that dark time. When they made their next album, Tusk, in 1979, Christine decided to try something new. She wrote Beautiful Child, which had a totally different sound. The whole album cost $1.4 million to make, a record-breaking amount back then. Warner Brothers spent another $1 million just to promote it, including hiring a marching band to perform in Los Angeles. Even though the album hit #1 in the UK and #4 in the US, it only sold 4 million copies. Compared to Rumours, that felt like a failure. Fans sent letters calling the music confusing and weird. Concert crowds dropped by 40%. Christine blamed herself. Her songs had changed the most, and Lindsay said they had confused people. Their relationship in the band grew cold. By then, Christine's drug use had spiraled further. In 1977 and 1978, she wasn't just snorting cocaine, she started smoking it. She kept the powder in an antique silver pillbox, thinking it made her addiction look classy. In October 1977, she was recording in London when she suddenly saw 2 people standing in the studio, Peter Green and Jeremy Spencer, old Fleetwood Mac members who weren't even there. She talked to them for 20 minutes before realizing they were hallucinations. Mick Fleetwood paid everyone in the studio $500 to stay quiet. Christine was using up to 8 grams of cocaine a day, costing about $2,000 per week. The damage was so bad, She needed surgery to fix her nose in 1979. Christine McVie's story during Fleetwood Mac's later years moves like a long, unbroken film where the scenes never fade. The double album Tusk came out in 1979, and the tour that followed felt endless. It started on October 26, 1979, in Pocatello, Idaho, and did not stop until September 1, 1980, at the Hollywood Bowl after 112 shows. Christine was singing Storms, a song about her post-divorce heartache and her tangled feelings for Mick Fleetwood, and her voice cracked in the studio while recording it. On the road, she drank entire bottles of Dom Perignon and laughed about marijuana so strong they didn't even have to smoke it to feel it. But beneath the humor, the tension grew darker. In 1980, Lindsey Buckingham tried to start a romance with her. She turned him down, and the rejection ended with a violent fight in the studio. He lunged at her and hit her, and the mixing board broke under the struggle, a symbol of how far the band had fallen into chaos. After that, she stepped into another storm. During a break in 1981, she fell into a passionate 3-year relationship with Beach Boys drummer Dennis Wilson. He met her while Tusk was still being recorded and moved into her Coldwater Canyon house. He planted a heart-shaped garden for her and in 1980 hired an orchestra to play at her surprise birthday party. But he was battling severe alcoholism and cocaine binges. He would smash things in her home in a rage. The relationship ended in early 1981. On December 28, 1983, Dennis Wilson drowned at Marina del Rey while diving for objects he had thrown into the water. Christine blamed herself for his death and carried that guilt for years. The band released Mirage in 1982, which gave Christine and Lindsey the top 22 hit Love in Store, staying 14 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100. Yet success didn't ease the fighting. By 1987, McVie vetoed Buckingham's plan to put his solo songs onto Fleetwood Mac albums. That argument exploded at her house. He shouted, called them selfish, then physically attacked Stevie Nicks, slapping her and bending her over the hood of a car in Christine's courtyard. McVie later confirmed there was a physical fight, and it was ugly. Buckingham's departure left the group scrambling for replacements and ended the most successful version of Fleetwood Mac. During the recording of Tango in the Night in 1987, Christine's Everywhere became a top 14 hit and sat at #1 on the adult contemporary chart for 3 weeks. But the sessions were a nightmare. Stevie Nicks was drunk during vocals, recording in Buckingham's master bedroom with Brandy, and he later deleted many of her takes. Christine once smashed a champagne bottle during a fight over who got solo spots, turning the studio into a dangerous scene. Still, the album sold over 15 million copies worldwide and became one of their biggest successes. Away from the band, Christine tried to stand alone. Her 1984 solo album, Christine McVie, reached #13 on the Billboard Hot 100 with Got a Hold on Me, which also topped the adult contemporary chart for 4 weeks, and mainstream rock for 2 weeks. It was the first time any Fleetwood Mac member had scored a #1 adult contemporary hit and earned her a BMI citation in 1985. But Warner Brothers pressed her to sound less pop and more rock, and the pressure drained her joy. The album's money funded her divorce from John McVie, but left her questioning her artistic integrity. She married Portuguese keyboardist Eddie Quintela on October 18, 1986. He co-wrote Little Lies for Tango in the Night, but their love turned sour. He barred Fleetwood Mac members from their wedding, and even from her 50th birthday party in 1993. During the 1990 Behind the Mask sessions, Christine hid their arguments behind a professional face. Quintela gave her ultimatums to stop touring. The marriage ended in 2003 amid allegations he cheated with her personal assistant. By 1993, Christine's mental health was fraying. She released a compilation called A Cut Above, but refused to tour. Therapy sessions revealed her lifelong fear of abandonment from her strict, emotionally distant parents. She learned how these wounds had kept her in unhealthy relationships with John McVie and Eddie Quintella. In 1990, she had tried to create the family she never had by adopting 2 of Quintella's stepchildren. When the marriage collapsed in 1997, a brutal custody battle followed. Quintella's wealthy family hired lawyers who challenged her fitness as a parent, dragging the case on for months and costing over $200,000. She had to sell jewelry and instruments to pay fees. The fight left her feeling like a failure as a woman and deepened her depression. Hidden beneath the public image was a health crisis. In 1992, she underwent major neck surgery for injuries from years of piano playing. The spinal fusion left her bedridden for 4 months. Prescribed OxyContin and Percocet, she slid into secret addiction, sometimes staying awake for 3 days on painkillers and cocaine. She canceled shows claiming scheduling conflicts, while actually battling withdrawal. She didn't overcome the addiction until 2004, when she finally sought help and gave up smoking and alcohol. In 1993, she developed severe agoraphobia. When Fleetwood Mac planned a South American tour, she couldn't face flying. She quit the band by calling Mick Fleetwood from her bed. They recruited Becca Bramlett, Dave Mason, and Billy Burnett to replace her, but Christine retreated from public life, saying she was burned out by the travel and the schlepping. After she left Fleetwood Mac in 1998, she moved into her $2 million manor in Kent, hoping solitude would heal her. Instead, it trapped her. By 2003, she could barely walk to her garden gate without panic attacks. She survived on grocery deliveries and rare pub visits. Locals whispered about the reclusive rock star. Neighbors saw her bedroom light on at 3 a.m., proof of nights spent awake in isolation. Around 2010, she had a terrifying fall down the stone stairs of the manor at 2 a.m., fracturing 2 ribs and her left wrist. She lay on the floor for over an hour before crawling to a phone. Friends revealed she was drinking up to 2 bottles of wine a day and mixing it with painkillers. Empty bottles were hidden behind books, under beds, even in vases. The fall forced her to see that alcohol was not just numbing her pain, but endangering her life. Her return to the stage in 2014 for the On With the Show tour looked like triumph, but felt like terror. The tour grossed $200 million across 120 shows, but she still gripped her airplane seat so hard her knuckles turned white. Once in Phoenix, she refused to board a flight, forcing a Denver show cancellation that cost $2 million. Performing saved her life, but travel nearly broke her spirit. Her last public performance came at Oracle Park in San Francisco in 2019. She appeared frail, down to 98 pounds from her healthy 125. By early 2022, she had metastatic cancer, but kept it secret. A stroke hit her on November 28, 2022, and she died on November 30th at age 79, with only a nurse present. Stevie Nicks wasn't allowed a goodbye. Christine had asked for privacy, even in death. The 2024 biography Songbird revealed more than anyone expected. Her unpublished diaries from 2015 to 2021 spoke of feeling cursed for breaking Fleetwood Mac's unity and guilty for denying fans a farewell tour. Over 40 new songs were found on her piano, including one titled Goodbye Yellow Brick Road to Hell, describing suicidal thoughts during her darkest agoraphobic years. The book sold over 500,000 copies in its first month. Stevie Nicks declared Fleetwood Mac was buried with Christine. The woman who wrote Don't Stop had in truth stopped living years before she stopped breathing.